Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, Accidental Beauty. If you're new, welcome. My name is Laura. I'm a self-taught makeup enthusiast who used to work in the beauty industry, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of what the beauty industry is actually like behind the scenes. I was inspired by Marlena Stell's video, which I'll link up here, where she talked about kind of like the behind the scenes of owning your own makeup brand, developing products, that sort of thing. So she comes at it obviously from the perspective of a brand owner or like former brand owner, I guess. Whereas I worked for one of the companies that would sell formulas to brands like hers and help them kind of develop their products. Because most makeup brands don't have their own in-house labs. They actually go to a company like the one that I used to work for. So I had a lot of visibility to sort of the behind the scenes of what actually goes into formulating products, coming up with ideas for products, and then marketing those to beauty brands that you would encounter at Ulta or Sephora or your local drugstore. So if you guys want to hear kind of like a not really tell all, but just kind of like what the beauty industry is actually like behind the scenes, then please keep on watching. So legally, I can't disclose too much specific information, obviously, but I think I can kind of talk about like general things. So I just wanted to share sort of my perspective. I obviously can't get into specifics, like I can't talk about, specific clients or anything like that for confidentiality reasons, but I can sort of talk about the industry in general, sort of give an overview. I don't currently work in the beauty industry, but I thought it would be information that people would be interested in because you don't really hear too many people talk about this sort of behind the scenes aspect, especially not on the manufacturing end of things. So as I mentioned, I worked for a cosmetics manufacturer. I worked there for about 2 years in the marketing and product development department. I'm a graphic designer, so while I wasn't coming up with concepts for products, I was putting together the marketing materials to essentially like sell those products to brands, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second, just sort of an overview of my role. Basically, I put together a lot of presentations, a lot of PR boxes, and other kind of marketing materials like that. That being said, even though I am a graphic designer, because I have such a passion for beauty, the people in the product development department would often call me in to test products, give feedback on products. Even sometimes I put forward some ideas for products. I guess I'll start off kind of with like what the company that I worked for did, what they specialized in, and kind of like how these cosmetics manufacturers operate. The one that I worked for specialized in makeup and skincare. They were starting to get more into the skincare space as I was working there. They didn't do any sort of like cosmeceutical type products. So like they didn't do like lash serums or, things like that. It was pretty much like straight cosmetics. So basically the way that our department worked, our whole department, marketing and product development, would sit down about 4 times a year or so and look at projected trends. We had access to trend forecast, I guess like publications and databases. So like WGSN was one of them. There were other ones that I can't remember the name of right now. But anyways, we had access to data of customers and then tons and tons of articles sort of predicting what the next big trends would be in the beauty industry. And we would look about 5 years in the future and try and predict the next big trend so that we could develop products that we could then market to brands that you see at like Sephora, let's say, sell those products to them. So then they would buy those products, put them into development, and then by the time that they get on shelves, those products are trendy. that was kind of the idea. Okay, so like for example, I don't know, let's say our trend forecast said that the color turquoise would be really in, and I don't know, colored eyeliner. I don't know, I'm just making this up. Because these forecast publications would also talk about potential trending colors. So maybe we develop products that were maybe lots of blue tones. We would do a lot of different colored eyeliners, and then the marketing would also play off of that. So we'd really do everything that we can to convince our clients, so the brands that you see at, Sephora, Ulta, whatever, convince them that our formulas are the best and superior to our competitors, and that we're ahead of the curve, and we can guarantee that these brands will be able to put forward trendy products that will then do well in sales. That was kind of the goal. So we would do like about 4 or so of these like innovation launches. So basically like collections centered around a theme or themes, potentially trending formulas, textures, colors. Everything had to be justified against the trend reports. So we had to have a reason, why we would choose those particular colors, formulas, and then the marketing would play into that. And those were based on trends like 3 to 5 years or so in advance. Once product development made their formulas, we would make a small batch in the lab based on like how many clients we were planning to send out to. And then I would put together the packaging, because we like labeled them like as if they're, products sold on shelves. I would do the packaging, sometimes the branding for the entire campaign, and then I would make a presentation to match the branding of the whole PR package, and everything would be very cohesive, very beautiful. We started spending more on like, photo shoots with models to really like sell our products to brands. Okay, a thing that I see some people talk about online, figured I'd probably address that here. So obviously I can only speak to the clients that we had, and I also didn't deal directly with the clients. I never met them. So this is sort of like secondhand information that I got from product development or sales when I would talk to them after the client presentations to find out like what they thought of the collection. A lot of brands don't seem to be super interested in innovation. So that was a thing that we really tried to do as a department, was come up with really innovative textures, formulas, categories of products. Like we were really trying to create products that stood out, especially against our competition, other cosmetics manufacturers. We were really, really trying to be innovative. And it didn't seem like a lot of brands, i.e. our clients, were that interested. Could have been for cost reasons, because, it's expensive to produce these products. Like, you could be sold on a formula, but then you also have, like as a brand, you also have to pay for the production of it. So, you might have a really innovative formula that's really, really cool and stands out, but it might also be really expensive to produce. We actually had a product like that. It was really cool. I hadn't seen anything like it on the market before. I don't think we actually even had the facilities to produce it on a mass scale. We could only do it on a very small scale. And the unfortunate thing was that we wanted to sell it to brands, but we kind of had to give them like a bit of a caveat that like, if you buy this formula from us, you also kind of have to fund the cost of a machine that would be able to produce this type of formula on a mass scale. So that was really unfortunate, because it was like one of my favorite products I think that we had ever developed as a department. Producing innovative formulas can be very, very costly. And some of our competitors, this is something that you experience in like any business. Some of our competitors, were able to do the same type of work that we were, but for a lot cheaper. So sometimes we'd lose business. Happens happens to any business. Also, I suspect that some brands were just comfortable doing the same thing that they were doing. They really weren't looking for innovation, and they weren't really interested in becoming a more innovative brand. It's really a shame because, like, you know, there were some really great creative minds that I worked with at this company in product development as well as in the lab. We were trying to show really cool formulas. Like, there were some things that we produced, as I mentioned, that were really, really unique. You know, we could get access to some really incredible ingredients as well, which could affect, you know, the quality of our formulas, the appearance or colors that we could produce as well. Like, so the department was making some really, really cool things. And unfortunately, I'm gonna try and be as like politically correct as possible here. Some personal biases from sort of the more executive level employees that I worked with sometimes also interfered with our innovation. Things have to be approved by the higher ups, and sometimes the higher ups also don't really care about innovation or interesting colors or formulas or things like that. So a lot of our projects were scrapped and never actually made it to the client presentation. So that's also another thing that can happen sort of behind the scenes is like, you know, the team comes up with really interesting, innovative products, but if it's not approved by our bosses, then we can't show it, which sucks. It really sucks. As someone who absolutely loves cosmetics, loves innovation, loves bright colors, interesting textures and formulas, and when you don't see eye to eye with your higher ups and it can't make it out of the building, you're stuck. You can't really do anything. I guess next let's talk about the packaging, my greatest love. I'm a package designer, I'm a graphic designer, but my first job in the industry was strictly in package design, so it's very, very near and dear to my heart. But we're not talking about the package design, we're going to talk about the components. I see a lot of discussion about components online, especially on Reddit. People are really quick to point fingers at, you know, this brand for copying this other brand for using the same components. Like, I've seen a lot of discourse talking about the Charlotte Tilbury like wands, and Tarte just came out with a similar product. It has the exact same or very similar component. So people are talking about how they're ripping them off. Yes, these products are marketed to be dupes for the original Charlotte Tilbury, but what you guys have to realize is there's only so many stock components that component manufacturers have. So basically, we had a team that would order components based on what our product development department needed. So they actually decided what type of components we would put our products in. Sometimes, most of the time, it was based off of, well, okay, we have this type of formula, it has to go in this type of container. Certain formulas are light sensitive, so, you know, the component had to be completely opaque, or sometimes it had to be airtight, otherwise the formula would go bad, things like that. Sometimes it was an aesthetic choice, but most of the time, the first priority anyways, was the formula had to match the component. There are only so many components out there. And I'm not talking about custom stuff like something that you'd see from like a Pat McGrath or Jeffree Star has done a lot of custom stuff. I'm just talking about kind of the basic components that you see on the shelves. There's a limited number of those. So yeah, you might have like, let's say a lipstick tube. You might have it in a sort of cylinder tube versus a sort of rectangular prism type tube. I don't know if there are other options. You know, you only have a certain number. And then if you want to customize, then obviously that's going to increase your costs. So when we were sending out sort of these concept innovation boxes, we didn't want anything custom because there was no point. Like, we were just selling the formula, we just had to dress it up in a nice package. Now, certain brands or certain products in the industry have sort of become synonymous with certain types of packaging. So off the top of my head, I'm thinking like NARS with their matte black packaging, for example, or Dior with their oval bottle for the backstage, I think it's their foundation, things like that. But a lot of suppliers do have those in stock. I can't speak for like specific components because that was not part of my responsibility, so I didn't see like what these catalogs actually had. But like sometimes I see people online complaining that like, oh, this brand ripped off this other brand's packaging. It's like, no, they probably just ordered from the same supplier. So like, you probably will see, okay, let's say Dior with that oval kind of bottle. So it's possible that it's more expensive. So a brand like Dior might go for slightly more luxury packaging, or they did it first and other brands are sort of hesitant to use the same packaging because, brand recognition, they don't want to be confused with Dior. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Just because two products are in the same type of packaging, it doesn't mean that one copied the other. They probably just got stuff from the same supplier. Okay, so like case in point, I've got 3 liquid lipsticks here and they're all from different brands in the same component. They're just dressed up differently. We've got Sugar Pill liquid lipstick, we have Wet n Wild liquid lipstick, and we have a Jeffree Star liquid lipstick. Exact same component, just different branding. Okay, I'll just add a disclaimer. I don't buy from Jeffree Star anymore. That's a very old liquid lipstick. It's almost empty. Just here for demonstration purposes. So as you can see, they're all in the exact same component, and the branding, the logo, the colors, all of that is specific to each brand. The lid on the Wet n Wild one is a different color than the Sugar Pill one. That's all stuff that can be handled by the manufacturer. So on the like production manufacturing line, they can shrink wrap it or do other things to color the component itself so it looks a little bit different, but the base component is all the exact same. It's not a bad thing that they're in the same component. It doesn't mean that one is copying the other. It's just a component that probably makes sense for that type of formula and is probably relatively inexpensive. Oh, yeah, one more thing about components. So some brands would come to, the company that I worked for with their own custom components. Some brands would come to us looking for like basically everything. So that's called turnkey. I think, okay, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's basically like a start to finish process. So we would propose like, here's the product. It's going to be in this packaging. We can do your labels for you. We can potentially even do your branding for you. So like, let's say like a new brand wants to start kind of a smaller scale, possibly an indie brand. They don't have the budget to have an in-house design team or hire an expensive agency to design, their entire branding package for them. They'd come to us and be like, okay, I want to start my brand. I need a logo. I need components. I need formulas. I need everything. And it's not private label because they do want to customize their formulas, maybe help develop the type of formulas or the type of products, but we would take care of everything start to finish. They don't have to touch anything other than like, signing off on the products. And then we would manufacture them, put them, fill the components, put the labels on, package them up, send them out to the client, and then the client can then, sell them. So that was a service that had been offered in the past. It's a service that some cosmetic manufacturers do. A good option for like probably a smaller scale brand, or sometimes even some of the larger clients. They would need to do a special run of a product for one reason or another. Sometimes they would just supply us with their artwork for labels and stuff. We would have to print them, stick the labels on, and then fill the products. There's a very high profile client that we had that you guys are all familiar with that I can't mention by name. But for one reason or another, they had to do a special run of a couple shades of a product. I don't really know why, but I had to help with some of the label sizing and stuff and printing for that. That was also a service that we did, special runs for things. On that note, talking about kind of like dupes and things like that, let's talk about formulas that seem very similar, and people are quick to point the finger and say, oh, it's this one's copying the other. Looking at formulas. Formulas from multiple brands can be made in the same lab, but it doesn't mean that they're identical. It doesn't mean that they're dupes. It doesn't mean that they're private labeled. So back to the company that I used to work for, as I mentioned, we would do these presentations, these innovation launches, where we would send out a collection of products, sometimes a full collection, sometimes just a sampling. So like sometimes, let's say we'd focus on just lips, or sometimes we do essentially like a full face worth of products, send them out to all of our clients and entice them to develop those products for their own. So basically buy the formula off of us, customize it, and then produce it. When you're showing the same products or the same formulas to multiple brands, you might have multiple brands interested in the same product. So what we would do, again, I didn't see this part of the process, so this is just based on my understanding, but basically we would either just essentially sell to the highest bidder, or the first client who asked for it, and then it's like, okay, this product is out of commission, we can't develop anything else. Most brands didn't make us do that. Like there were some that would essentially like almost put like a moratorium on on any other brands coming out with the same product, but most of the time what we would do, and this was actually coming from the brands anyways, the brands wanted to customize the formula. So, we'd have our base, let's say, I don't know, lip gloss, for example. So we'd have our base lip gloss and I don't know, maybe it had some skincare ingredients or something in it that we were trying to go for that like makeup skincare hybrid trend. Okay, fine. So a brand would be interested in it, and then another brand would be interested in it. So brand number one would say, we really love this lip gloss. We love the formula. We love the colors. Can we do more colors? And also, can we take out the skincare ingredients? Because that doesn't really go with our brand. Okay, cool. And then brand number two says, hey, we love the colors. Let's keep the colors exactly as they are. Keep the skincare, but can we also add this other ingredient or some other benefit or whatever? Okay, cool. So now you have two base formulas that are exactly the same, but we've added or removed a couple things, so now they're slightly different. They might feel very, very similar upon application. The colors might be similar or the same. To the naked eye, the effect might be identical, but the formulas are slightly different. So from my understanding, that was basically the case with the Kylie Cosmetics and ColourPop scandal from, I don't know, years ago, 2016 or whatever, where people were saying that their liquid lipsticks were made in the exact same lab, they're the exact same formula. I don't think realistically that they would have had the same formula. I think they would have had the same base, and then, ColourPop might have added something or might have had slightly different colors, and Kylie might have also done the same. Maybe, they wanted it to be, the formula to be slightly creamier or maybe slightly drier to get a more matte effect. So I think they were very similar formulas with slight differences. So, unless you're a cosmetic chemist and actually looking at the formulas, breaking down the ingredients to see the ratio of all the different ingredients, I don't think the average consumer would have been able to tell the difference, which is why a lot of people were accusing them of being the same formula. In a cosmetics manufacturer like the place where I used to work, once a brand signed on and decided to develop products with us, even if brand A, B, and C were all developing lip gloss based on the same innovation launch that we had shown them, formula A, B, and C would all be slightly different. They would all be customized. They wouldn't be the exact same formula. Private label, on the other hand, is an identical formula. So the way that works is they send out, or they have in stock, their base formula, and that's all that they do. No customization. Maybe they'll customize the colors, maybe not, but the formula itself is exactly the same. So brand A, B, and C comes to them and says, hey, I want to start my own makeup line. Let's start with lip glosses. Okay, great. Here's our lip gloss formula. It comes in 10 different colors. And brand A says, great, I'm going to take all 10 colors. Brand B says, you know what, I don't like these two. I'm only going to take 8. And then brand C also wants to take all 10 colors. They're working with the exact same product. They're just putting their own label on it. And now, I guess the fun section. This is the number one question that I would get asked both while I worked at this company as well as after I left the company. Whenever I tell people that I used to work in cosmetics, yes, I got a lot of free makeup while I was working there. I got to try out a lot of makeup samples from, product development as they were working on different formulas. As I mentioned, because I am such a makeup enthusiast and, just have a passion for the world of cosmetics, I was often brought onto panels to try out different products. And then often I get to keep my little sample, which was always fun. So I could provide input on everything from formulation to color selection for the samples sent out to the brands. It was pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure 2 products that I helped test out and give feedback to are actually on shelves right now, which is also incredibly cool. So we had a whole storage case of products from our clients. I don't know if every company does this, but ours would basically pull from every assembly line run. We would pull 1 or 2 samples to keep as sort of just in case, or if the brand needed to I don't know, see a product for one reason or another. I'm not really sure why we kept them. But anyways, we had to keep from every run, we had to keep a few samples. And if the brand never asked for them, we could just keep them. So I got a lot of free makeup that way. It was pretty sweet, not gonna lie. I guess one more thing that I'll add. Around the time that I left the company, let's see, I have to be careful with what I say, but around the time that I left the company, we started doing more influencer type events with brands, just sort of a different avenue of marketing. Anyways, the way that we had to suck up to these influencers and the brands as well, actually, on that note, it was kind of mind-boggling to see just how much ass kissing we had to do to make these influencers like us, and the brands as well. Just how much extra shit we had to send them, how much swag, how much jewelry and scented candles and all of these unnecessary PR packages that you see a little bit online, especially back in sort of the 2016 to 2018 days, the real height of beauty YouTube, and some of these PR packages that these influencers would receive. So we weren't working with the top influencers. We didn't have the budget for that. But even these smaller influencers, the gifts that we sent them, it was unbelievable. Just to bribe them to like us. And the brands as well, the things that we would try and do to get their attention, to try and win their loyalty. It's wild. I know the competition is very fierce. I don't know. And I say this as someone who would love to do content creation, if not full-time, then at least as a part-time job. I know that every brand reaches out to influencers in this way, tries to send them gifts and things like that. But it's what makes these people so much more special than everyone else on the planet? Why do they get gifts with scented candles and rose bouquets and all of this other bullshit? Meanwhile, us in the marketing department and product development are like slaving away coming up with concepts and putting together these kits because yeah, someone has to put together the kits. It was us. We had to do the manual labor. It was a very humbling experience, I'm not gonna lie. And like a slightly, I guess, degrading one. Just being on like sort of the other end of things, and seeing like, this is something that like I would love to be, I guess work in sort of influencing content creation. Obviously my reach is very small, but like, I would love to be able to like at least get paid a little bit to do this. And just seeing like, what some of these people with huge followings, just the swag that they get. Not gonna lie, it made me a little bit jealous, but also it made me think like people who have had scandals, like influencers and even other celebrities who have had scandals and sort of come across as very full of themselves and, sort of looking down on everyone. You can kind of see how you get such an overinflated ego, because if people are constantly trying to kiss your ass and sending you all of these ridiculous gifts, like, yeah, you're going to have an overinflated impression of yourself. Like, it totally makes sense. I can't think of anything else about my experience working in the beauty industry. If you have any other questions that I didn't answer, I can try and answer them. Again, I'm a graphic designer, so I worked in marketing. I did talk to product development a lot. I talked to the cosmetic chemists a lot. And I talked a little bit to people who worked in sort of like sourcing the packaging. I had some visibility of what other departments did, but for the most part, I just kind of did my thing in marketing. I didn't talk to brands directly, but, I heard kind of secondhand about the brands. Anyways, if you're curious about anything that I didn't answer, feel free to comment below and I will do my best to answer your question. If I have enough questions in the comments, I might just do like a part 2 of this video and try and answer those. We'll see. If you like the type of content that I post here on my channel, usually it's not this style of video. Usually it's like bold makeup looks, goth-inspired fashion, that type of thing. I've got way more of that on my other social media accounts, and as always, I leave links in the description box below, so you can check that out if you're interested. And if you enjoy the content that I post here on my channel, I'm sort of experimenting with different types of content, trying to grow my audience here. I just love talking about makeup and cosmetics. It's just a huge passion of mine, so if that's also your thing, I'd love it if you could subscribe. I'm just trying to build a community here of like-minded individuals so we can all just chat about makeup. Any kind of interaction, engagement with my content really does help me as a very, very small creator. So, subscribing, sharing my videos, liking, commenting, that would be greatly appreciated. If you made it to the end of this video, I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you are taking the time out of your day to watch my videos, and I'll see you guys next time.